Hello everyone, I pray you're well. Welcome to today's lecture on participatory approaches, tools and techniques. So today we will start by going through the steps in participatory approaches, with the first step being rapport building. This is very important, because if the community is not comfortable with you, they will not open up and they will not be able to air out their views or give their suggestions. So the team has to make an effort to perform activities that the community people are doing. For example, if they are sewing, you're supposed to sew with them. If they are transplanting, you transplant with them. It is not just a matter of telling them what to do, but you should actually do what you're telling them to do, so that they can learn from you and they can become comfortable with you. Okay? Then the other one is consultation with the villagers and outsiders. So here the facilitating team has to consult the villagers and the people around about what they think about the proposed project. It is not just imposing, but we need to find out whether what we are proposing is okay, whether it will not affect anyone, whether it will not disorganize those around who are not part of the project. So we are supposed to consult the villagers and the leaders as well. Okay. Then for the local leaders and the district leaders, the consultations are important, mainly because when you're exiting as a project team, you need people to keep on constantly supervising the project. So you need to consult the district officials and the local leaders and find out how capable they are to continuously evaluate, monitor and support farmers to continue with the project even when you exit. Okay. Then the other step is collecting secondary data. Secondary data can be gotten from reports, from newspapers, from leaflets, pamphlets, library sources, and so on. This is data that has already been collected by other people. These are reports that have been written. So you want to go through them and get a better feeling or understanding of the community that you're going to work with. Okay. This data will also actually help you validate the information you get from the community. Then training of trainers. During participatory approaches, because normally we are targeting bigger groups or bigger areas, we choose to have trainings of trainers. So these trainers will support us to go to areas where we will not be able to go. So we start by training trainers, and in most cases we choose people that are within the community. We choose local leaders, we can choose district officials, we train them, and then this team is what will support us in areas where we cannot be able to reach. Okay. Then diagnosis. Mainly in diagnosis, we are examining and analyzing a given situation. Okay. So we want to see the problems that the community is encountering and what is causing it. So if you want to support a community to alleviate a problem, you should start with the causes. If you don't cover the causes of that particular problem, then it will be a waste of time. So that is why it is important to undertake diagnosis. And most of the tools that we are going to cover and techniques actually help us to undertake diagnosis. So you do things like mapping, like transect walks, like interviews, so that you're able to understand the village you're going to work with. Okay, then the participatory approaches. All these are approaches in participatory methods. Okay, so we will cover mainly rapid rural appraisal and participatory rural appraisal, but I will request you to go ahead and read more about the rest. So in the first lecture we talked about the history of rapid rural appraisal, how it started. So this rapid rural appraisal can be defined as a systemic and semi-structured activity conducted on site by a multidisciplinary team, a team of people with expertise in different areas. Okay, the aim is to quickly and effectively acquire new information about the rural people and their perceptions of their local environments and living conditions. So this method was mainly for collecting information from the rural people. So you come as a technical team, you interview them, you ask them questions, and you get information from them. So the role of the local people was limited to providing information. And then the power of decision making about the information that has been acquired remained with the specialists. Okay. But after some time, the practitioners came up with a much better approach, which is the participatory rural appraisal. This participatory rural appraisal is a way of enabling local people to analyze their living conditions, to share the outcomes, and to plan their activities. So this method actually involves the local people much more than in rural rapid appraisal. Okay, so it is called a handing over the stick to the insider. So you as the technical team, you're supposed to surrender the authority to the local people in the learning process. So your role is just to facilitate. For them, they will have to identify their problems, and they will have to come up with possible solutions, and they will have to suggest a plan for taking care of their problems. Yours is just to facilitate the process. So rural people's development capacities for analyzing their circumstances of living, their potentials and their problems in order to actively decide on changes were improved in this method. Okay, so what are the principles of participatory rural appraisal? Now, according to Chambers 1997, the following principles were listed. The first one is listening and learning, and we see that the local people have their knowledge, experience, history, culture, views, and preferences. So listening to them helps portray their worldview or their understanding of given circumstances. So it is very important to listen, learn, and show respect towards those from which learning can take place. Okay, so it is very important to respect what the local people are saying. It is very important to listen to them, and it is also important to learn from them, because they understand their community far much better than you who has come to facilitate the process. And the second principle is offsetting biases. How, in order to offset such biases which we find in the community, you go with your own perception about this community, you go with your own ideas about the community. So in order for you to remove these biases, participatory rural appraisal encourages relaxed listening and learning, then seeking participation from people, visiting remote and interior locations, and visiting local communities at their convenience. Okay, so you're supposed to listen and learn from them so that your own perception, your biases are dealt with. Okay, you're supposed to seek participation from them so that you're able to get much more from them. You're supposed to visit interior locations. When we are conducting projects, sometimes we choose to go to urban centers, so you only want to benefit the people around that area, which is easier to reach in. But it would actually be better for you to traverse the whole area so that you get different ideas and views from people, and this will help you offset most of the biases you have about the community. So the process should try to have involvement of those who would otherwise never get a chance to speak. Okay, so those people that are left out should also be brought on board, and that's why we are saying you can even go deeper in areas areas that are not closer to the city or urban centers, so that you're able to get views from all of them and you get a general perception about the situation. Then the third principle is utilization of precious community time. Now we all know that when we go to the community, for example in the rain season, they are plowing, they are planting, they are weeding. Then in the dry season, in most cases they are harvesting and they are drying their produce. So every little time that you get from community people is precious to them. Okay, so you should properly utilize this time and ensure that you only go there at their convenience. So you go there in their convenient time. Don't insist at engaging them in the morning at 10 to 11 or 9 or 8 to 11 or 8 to 10 during a time when they are supposed to be doing their farm work. Because remember, by the time you go with a project, you're aiming at improving their livelihoods. So if you're intercepting what they are doing, then you're not doing good for them. So choose time that is convenient, maybe afternoons when even the ladies are finished preparing food for the family. There they will concentrate more on the discussions that you're going to have. Then the other principle is seeking diversity. So participatory rural appraisal involves learning from diverse conditions and different actors. It is looking for diverse events, different processes and forces, which helps in understanding the issues from different perspectives. Okay, so for you to do any proper analysis, okay, you need diversity. Get views from women, get views from youth, get views from the men, get views from the elderly. Talk to the local leaders, talk to the religious leaders, so that you're able to have diverse views from the community. There you'll be able to make decisions with the community or suggest propose projects that are going to benefit everyone and they will not affect any category in the community. And then the other principle is triangulation or cross-checking. So this principle was adopted to improve worthiness or trustworthiness of data. Remember, when you go to a community, you could pick information, and then when your other colleague goes back, they pick different information. So cross-checking is very, very important in minimizing errors and doing midway corrections. Okay, so you get some information from the community, but as you move along, you still send another team to get information, so that you keep on panel beating and ensuring that whatever that you're implementing is actually targeting the objective of the project. Okay, the other principle, which is number 6, is optimal ignorance and appropriate imprecision. Okay, so in order to minimize cost and time, it is important to put this principle at play. Okay, so this principle comes in handy when you want to reduce the cost you use and the time you use for given project activities. It means that knowing what is worth knowing and knowing enough to serve the purpose and not knowing the rest or not trying to find out more is important. Okay, so only find out what is relevant, okay, for the particular purpose, and that will help you save time. If you've gone for a particular activity that is related to agriculture, or that is, then you shouldn't involve politics. Okay, you should not try to know more about the politics in the community, because you have a purpose for which you've gone to the community. So only know what is enough to help you with the activities that you have to implement. This will help you save a lot of cost and time. In that you only discuss what has taken you there. Cost, in that you spend the planned time. If you go on talking about everything in the community, even what was not important for this particular project, you will end up increasing the number of days that you have to spend in the community, and that means that you will use a lot of resources than the planned resources. Okay. And then 7 is multidisciplinary team. So as a principle of participatory appraisal, you're supposed to use a diverse team. Remember, not everyone is a specialist in everything. Okay, so we have people who are specialists in gender, we have people who are specialists in agronomy, we have people who are specialists in soil science. Okay, so we have a team, depending on the purpose of the project, put together a team of experts from all the required areas. Okay, and then also ensure that on your team you have both female and male scientists to make both sexes or both groups of people comfortable with you. Then you should also identify among your team a team leader or facilitator and someone to record the process. So that is a principle. You should have a team that has people who are able to do different activities or able to undertake different roles. Okay, so when we go to the pillars of participatory appraisal, we see that we have behavior and attitude, and these have a lot to play and a lot to affect or influence in any activity that you implement in the community. So it is very important to understand the behavior and attitudes of the community that you're going to work with. Then we have sharing. Sharing is two-way. You share with the community what you have to propose as a team, and then the community also shares with you given information that they have. So in the end, you're able to design a participatory project that will benefit the community. And then methods, we also have quite a number of methods that we can use, but you choose methods depending on the community you are working with. Then when we go to the types of participatory appraisal, we have the exploratory type, we have the topical, and we have a problem solving. Okay, so participatory appraisal tools and techniques which are widely used to diagnose, like I said in the earlier slides, the current situation, such as farming systems, health facilities, hygiene, are all carried out under the exploratory participatory appraisal. So here we want to explore the community and know more about what they do and how they do things. Okay, we also want to do the gender analysis. We want to see who is responsible for doing that. What are the roles of men? What are the roles of the women? Then we have the topical application of participatory appraisal. In this type, we have participatory methods applied for specific concerns or specific areas. For example, we can do a soil survey, which is mainly to understand the soil related challenges that our community is facing. It could be water related, it could be on a specific disease, maybe cholera, maybe typhoid, maybe malaria. It could be targeting diet, it could be targeting income sources of the community, and so on. Okay, so you do a detailed study on that particular area. Then problem solving. This type of participatory appraisal deals with diagnosing problems and suggesting solutions together with the people in the community. Okay, so for participatory methods and techniques or tools, we realize that we have methods divided into space related methods, time related methods, and PRA methods. So we have the space related, where we have the maps, most of the maps, the social maps, the resource maps, participatory modeling maps. We have the service and opportunities maps. We have the transact maps, and we have the participatory consensus maps. Then in the time related, we have mainly timelines and trends. We want to see how things have been happening over time. Okay, but we will cover the most commonly used ones, and then the rest you can read on your own as and when you need to use that particular method. Okay, so we will start with the first tool, which is mapping. And mapping is the making of maps that depict conditions and the environment of the area that we are studying. Okay, so this is mapping. We want to get a feel of the environment that we are working in. It increases the know-how of the natives about their surroundings and the physical features of the area. Okay, so the examples we have are: one, social maps, and this consists of household information. So you work with a community and you help them to prepare a map showing population densities, social classes, land use practices. So you mainly need to understand information about the households in the community. Okay. The resource maps, which show the resources that we have. We want to see where the water bodies are. We want to see whether there are some mineral resources that we have in the community. We want to see if we have forests in the community. So these ones are put in the resource maps. We have the topical maps, which contain information about physical features of the areas, crops grown, population and infrastructure facilities present in the area. So the topical maps basically gives a bigger picture of the community. Okay, so you want to see where the physical features are. You want to see the areas where the community grows crops. You want to see whether there are road networks. You want to see whether there are hospitals. So that is mainly a general map. Then we have hazard maps, which shows areas affected by hazards. For example, if we have a community that is affected by flooding, we can have a hazard map that indicates specific areas in the community that are affected by flooding. We also have the mobility maps that show patterns of spatial mobility for different groups within the area. So it is a map showing the mobility of different categories of people in the community. Then we have diagramming and modeling as the second technique or tool, and the purpose of the diagrams is to: one, track and focus attention of discussion groups, then represent objects on the processes, stimulate and open discussions, provoke an effective group work, facilitate education and information exchange, assist decision making, and help in monitoring and evaluation. So you can have a diagram that people can look at and they'll be triggered to have a discussion on a given topic, or to have decisions made on a given situation. So the first example we have is a transact walk. Transacts are walks covering the area of study. So normally we want to see the natural resources, we want to see the topography, we want to see technologies, we want to see practices, and we also want to see opportunities and problems. You have a walk in the community and you're studying or you're looking at different things. So you note all these things down, and the villagers are able to now discuss and make decisions of what they want to do to solve a given situation. Then we also have flow diagrams, which discover and analyze impact and linkages. So if you want to see a current situation or problem and opportunities and how these link with each other, then you can use a flow diagram. Okay, show a linkage from a given problem to a given opportunity that is available. Okay, so through the flow diagram, you're able to discuss with our community given interventions that you can implement. We also have Venn diagrams. Its purpose is to show which institutions can we work with as an organization or as a community or as an institutions, which individuals are relevant, and what is the relationship between the individuals and the organizations that we wish to have take part in the project. Okay, so when we are using the Venn diagram, the size of the circle used will represent the importance and the significance or the power of a given institution or player or stakeholder or individual in the community. We use this because it is easier for these community members to understand with the help of diagrams. Okay, so someone will definitely know that a smaller circle, if we talk about a smaller circle and impact, the smaller circle will have less impact than a big circle. So if you have an institution in a big circle, for example, if you have local government in a big circle and an NGO in a small circle, a farmer will definitely know that it is better to deal much more with the local government because it has much more influence in a given situation we are discussing. Then we also have relationship diagrams, and these ones show the importance of given institutions, organizations, groups, individuals within a community. Okay, we have daily routine charts, and these are used to identify daily routine patterns of either gender in a particular area. So we want to see what a given gender, maybe the men, what do the men do on a daily basis, what do the women do on a daily basis, so that at the end, as we support these community members make decisions, they do not affect the day-to-day activities that they implement. And then the timing would also be influenced by these daily charts. Okay, then we have season diagrams and calendars. These are used to obtain season patterns. For example, when does it rain, when do we sell, when does the disease outbreak come up. Okay, so the season diagrams help us show that. We have preference ranking and scoring as the other tool, and in ranking we mainly want to see what is better than the other. Okay, so we have ranking for given situations. We can rank opportunities, we can rank problems, we can rank solutions, and so many others or other issues. We can have the simple ranking, which is done by voting. So this serves to facilitate priority setting and decision making. So when you're with the farmers and you want to decide about two things, you can request them to raise their hands and vote for a given issue that they feel is better, and you'll definitely use democracy and go with the biggest number. We also have matrix ranking, which allows us to see individuals and group priorities, and it can also be applied on uneducated and illiterate groups in the community. So in matrix ranking, you keep on bringing two options. For example, if we have an opportunity of supporting the community households, maybe with seed and fertilizer, or watering facilities, or maybe watering cans. So we can rank the three, but in ranking you give them two options at a time and they choose one, and at the end you're able to count how many options have the highest number of decisions. For example, if we have fertilizer and a watering can and farmers choose fertilizer, then we have fertilizer and seed and farmers choose seed, then we have seed and a watering can and farmers choose maybe seed. So at the end you count how many seeds are there, how many watering cans are there, and how many fertilizers are there. So the highest number of ranking will be given the first priority. So for example, if we have seed appear highest, then we will take seed as the first option for the farmers. Then we go to the second and the third. So when you're implementing or when you're choosing what to give to our community, you will go with that rank. You will choose what? Ranked highest. Then we have proportional piling. It is a measure of relative importance of issues. This is also similar to matrix, although we don't use a matrix, but it is also a bit similar. So here we use questions that are answered by people who do not like to give answers directly. Okay, so for example, we look at income levels, we look at expenditures. So these are questions that farmers might not want to answer directly. Okay, so we use the proportional piling in a way of enabling people who cannot directly answer specific questions respond to these issues. You realize when you have a questionnaire and you ask someone how much they earn, it might be a little bit hard for them to respond to. But you can use other tactics. You can use maybe ranks or categories, and it will be easier for people to answer. So it is a measure of relative importance of issues, and that it helps obtain data from respondents in relative terms. Okay, we also have wealth ranking or wealth grading, which supports in the analysis of socioeconomic standing and conditions of the local group. So you want to see how wealthy a given community is, or how poor a given community is. Okay, we also have matrix scoring, and in matrix scoring we have issues ranked against a list of criteria agreed upon by consensus within the group. Okay, so it helps to rank and prioritize identified items. For example, we are saying values of various shrubs and plants, or objects, or problems, or solutions, or project ideas. So you give a given score to every rank. So the team agrees that for this score, this is what it represents. This score represents this, and then at the end you're able to have the team score the given issues or items. Okay, so if it is problems, you're able to know which one has scored highest and which one has scored lowest by just using ranking. Okay, then we also have the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is mainly analyzing the strength of the community, the weaknesses of the community, the opportunities within the community, and the threats that the community has. So it is a very effective tool even for personal assessment. So it can be used for assessing individuals, can be used for assessing projects, it can be used for assessing institutions or communities that we work with. Then we have the pairwise ranking, which is also called a preference ranking. You see, most of these tools are similar, so in case you want to use one of them, you need to read more about it and understand how best to use it. But in some of the situations, we combine these tools and techniques. So in pairwise ranking, each individual item is compared directly against the other, so that we get the one with the highest ranking and the one with the lowest ranking. Okay, so it is not very different from the other matrix methods that we've talked about. So still we also compare given issues, and then we see which one ranks highest and which one ranks lowest. So you're choosing one from the two. And then the other technique is interviewing. and we mainly use structured interviews or semi-structured interviews when we are dealing with our community. So for the semi-structured interviews, we normally have questions that are predetermined at the beginning. However, as we go on, we can have other questions pop up, but the structured one is similar to the questionnaires that you've seen around. So the questions are predetermined, and those are the questions that will be answered. Okay, but the semi-structured wants to probe more, so other questions can come in as you move along with the participants. So the interviewer prepares a list of topics and questions rather than a fixed questionnaire when we are using the semi-structured interviews. And these are preferred more especially if we want to get perceptions of the community about given situations and issues. The types of semi-structured interviews include individual interviews, group interviews, key informant interviews, and then the focus group discussions. Okay. We also have the other method, which is problem analysis, and here we have diagnosis of a given problem, but in this diagnosis we want to understand what the problem is in the community and what is causing it, and then if this problem is not addressed, what could be the effects of this problem. So we can use two methods. One is a village introductory meeting, the first meeting that you hold in a village or in a community. So through that you can analyze a given problem with a community, or you can also use a problem tree. So the problem tree indicates the problem, the main problem, its root causes, and then the effects. So the trunk is the main problem. The roots represent the causes of this problem, and then the branches and the leaves or the fruits represent the effects or the consequences. So in case this problem is not addressed, these are the effects that will be faced. This is a simple example of low agricultural output. We see that this is caused by farmers having very small plots of land, farmers having few animals, soils being poor, lack of technical skills in agriculture, and drought. So these are the probable causes of this problem. But then if we don't look for solutions, we end up having the following effects. The farmers will not be able to save, the farmers will remain poor, there will be no money, there will be lack of food, the farmers will not be able to send children to school. Okay, so this is a typical problem tree. So for you to be able to understand this, you can get one problem that you think is affecting you as an individual, or a problem in the community, or a problem you face at home, and then you look for probable root causes, and then in case that problem is not addressed, what you think the consequences would be. So generally you can do this exercise with the community people. You give them the exercise, they sit in groups and analyze a given problem, and at the end of it all you'll be able to know what to address as root causes. Okay, then we look at the rural rapid appraisal and participatory rural appraisal methods uses. So we want to see what we use these methods for. Although now we commonly use the participatory rural appraisal, but the uses are the same. Okay, so we use them to ascertain needs or felt needs in the community. We use them to establish priorities in development activities. So we want to see which one is of a higher priority. Then we can also use them within the scope of the feasibility studies. We can also use them during the implementation of phase projects. We can use them within monitoring and evaluation projects. We can also use them for studies or for specific research topics. We can also use them for focusing formal surveys on essential aspects. And finally, we can use them to identify conflicts and conflict of interest within groups. Okay, the areas in which these methods have been applied previously include management of natural resources like rivers, lakes, and forests, agriculture, programs dealing with poverty alleviation and emancipation of women mainly, or gender-related projects, health projects, nutrition projects, village level and district planning projects or activities, then institution and policy analysis. So these are the areas where these methods have been used, but they are continuously being adopted in other situations. So when you're planning a participatory workshop, these are the steps that you should go through. 1. Forming a participatory appraisal or participatory learning appraisal team. And we say that this team has to be consisting of multidisciplinary members who are having expertise in different areas relevant to the particular issues that are going to be discussed. Constructing a program for the workshop. So you need to have a pre-planned program that you will follow in order to save time. Having a preparatory visit to the local people and traditional representatives. So you have to meet the local representatives and the local community so that you introduce your project, you introduce what you're going to do, and probably seek for permission. For example, these days, most of these meetings, which require a number of people, cannot be held until you seek permission from the authorities. Then you list objectives of the workshop. You form key questions and checklists that you will use. You produce a detailed program for the workshop. You distribute roles and responsibilities to the team members. You need someone who will welcome the participants, someone who will register them. These days, because of the pandemic, you need even someone who will take their temperature. You need someone who will take care of the meals. You need someone who will take care of each session. So you distribute these roles so that you don't have one person dominate the workshop. And we also encourage that you involve the local community as much as possible. So when you're planning, you can plan to use local people or the participants to undertake some of these key activities. For example, the prayer can be led by a local person. The meals can be taken care of by the local leaders or the group leaders, and so on. Then establish team contracts so that the team know what they are going to do, know what they are supposed to do, and then you also agree on the facilitation of the team. And then finally, you prepare logistics for the workshop, because you're not going to keep people in a workshop for the whole day without even a bottle of water. Thank you so much for listening, and in case you have any questions about this topic, kindly send them to me through my email address or through the learning management system. May God bless you.